Hi everyone, it's Marianne. Welcome to my Wasteless Life. So for today's video, I want to talk to you about the popular Monstera varieties and what's in my collection. Thank you so much for joining me today, and if you're new, this is my Wasteless Life, where I take you along my plant and sustainable lifestyle journey and share with you some of my tips and tricks along the way. So for today's video, I want to talk about a plant variety that everyone loves, the Monstera. I'd be hard-pressed to find someone who doesn't like a Monstera plant, especially since the Monstera deliciosa is what drew many people into becoming plant parents. So this month is going to be Monstera month on my channel, and just like my POTHOS series that I just wrapped up, and if you haven't seen that yet, the playlist link is down in the description. I would have a Monstera video every Thursday this month. There are about 48 known varieties of the Monstera plant, but I'm not going to go over every single cultivar, form, or sport of the Monstera, but I will share with you what's currently in my collection and talk about some of the popular varieties that are currently in the market or sought after by plant enthusiasts. And for the Monstera plants I currently have in my collection, I'll be uploading care and propagation videos on each one of them. For this very first video, I want to give an overview and go over the popular Monstera plant varieties, let you know which ones are in my collection, so that not only we could be familiar with these different types of popular varieties of Monstera plants, but to also make sure no one is getting duped into buying fake, rare Monstera plants. So when it comes to the popular varieties of the Monstera plants, I think of them like I think of my pothos. They are divided into three groups. The first group are the monsteras that are often misclassified as the splitleaf philodendron. The second group are the ones commonly referred to as Swiss cheese plant. And the third group are the monsteras that are not fenestrated, or at least as indoor plants, they rarely ever produce any fenestration. So the very first one in the splitleaf philodendron type of monsteras is none other than the Monstera deliciosa. When it's a juvenile plant, it has a heart-shaped leaf. As it matures, it would produce split leaves or fenestrations like this one. And when it matures even more, it will also start to form holes along the midrib along with the split leaves. So this plant that I have did start as a juvenile plant, and after 2 years of growth, it starts to produce leaves like this one. So if you have a juvenile Monstera deliciosa, give it time, it will also produce leaves like this one. And some also get into debates whether the plant they have is a BORSIGIANA or a deliciosa. To me, it doesn't make much of a difference. Some say the BORSIGIANA is the smaller plant, but grows a bit faster, but could also grow large. And some also say how you can tell the difference between the two is that the deliciosa would have ribboning on the base of the leaf or on the petiole. But to me, that is just basic science and physics. The larger the leaf, the heavier it is. And in order to support that larger leaf, it would form that ribboning. Because if you look at a juvenile Monstera plant, it wouldn't have that ribboning. But once it starts to produce larger leaves, it would form that ribboning. And another way they say you can differentiate a deliciosa and a BORSIGIANA is the internodes. If the internodes are shorter and pretty much stacked on top of each other, then that's a true deliciosa, while a BORSIGIANA would have a longer internode. And I can see that as a better indicator of trying to tell between a deliciosa and a BORSIGIANA. But longer internodes could also mean that your plant is reaching for light or you're not giving it enough support, because Monstera deliciosas are climbing plants. And of course, the Monstera deliciosa has a variegated form, and as far as plant trends goes, this one has never gone out of style, or I doubt it would anytime soon. So there are 4 different types of variegated Monstera that are currently hot in the market right now. The very first one is of course the Monstera albo, which has the green and white variegation. It comes currently in 2 forms, which is an albo variegation that has a marbling pattern and one that has a sectoral pattern. So a marbling variegation on an albo Monstera is the one where the green and white overlap, while a sectoral variegation on albo Monstera is the one where you could see blocks of white and green color. But of course, you can find a Monstera albo plant that has both. And another popular variegated Monstera is the Thai constellation Monstera, which a couple of years ago was actually more sought after than Monstera albo. But now Costa Farms is trying to mass produce this Thai constellation, and everyone is waiting for the release of them. And as you can see, I have 2 Thai constellation monsteras with me. This one is the Thai constellation that I imported from Thailand last year. I have an unboxing video of that one. If you want to watch it, I'll link it down in the description. And I've also been documenting the plant growth of this plant since the day I bought it. So it's like a year of of growth of this plant that I've been documenting, and I'll be sharing that video as part of this Monstera series, so watch out for that one. And this larger one is the Thai Constellation Monstera that I got from Costa Farms in their giveaway. So if you want to know the entire story of how I won this Thai Constellation Monstera from Costa Farms, I do have a vlog on it. Go check it out as well. The link is down in the description. And in that video, I got questioned regarding pricing of the Thai Constellation Monstera when it drops. So Costa Farms has actually been doing test shipments of the Thai Constellation Monstera, the first one being at the Pacific Northwest, and during the first drop it cost about $80. Now I recently heard in their follow-up shipments they increased the price to $100, and now they have pushed back the release of the Thai Constellation Monstera from summer 2022 to fall 2022 and most likely 2023. So by that time, and this is speculation on my part, you could probably expect another price increase when it finally drops in big box stores. And I'll make sure to update you on this plant before Costa Farms releases the Thai Constellation Monstera officially in the market, so that you can see how well a mass-produced Thai Constellation Monstera does in a regular home setting. And the next popular variegated Monstera in the market is the Monstera aurea, which is like the Monstera albo, but it has a yellow gold variegation. And for the hardcore Monstera collectors, the Monstera aurea is currently the it Monstera, and they actually prefer it more than the Monstera albo, because unlike the Monstera albo, the Monstera aurea holds its variegation a little bit longer, while in the Monstera albo, the white leaves die out very quickly. And the latest variegated Monstera to enter the market is the variegated mint Monstera, which has the green on green variegation, but the lighter green part has a lighter, cooler, very milky mint green color. And there's also been Monstera Sport that has been spotted in big box stores that are sold as regular Monsteras but are actually variegated. With this one though, I'm kind of skeptical, because are they really variegated, or is it just the plant suffering from mosaic virus or a viral disease, or it's just the leaves starting to yellow and it's kind of start to look like a variegation. If you go to a big box store and suspect that you might have found a Monstera Sport, don't just check the leaves, also check the stem to see if it's an actual variegation and not just damage, bleaching, or a viral disease that's happening on the leaves. Other Monstera varieties that are similar to the Monstera deliciosa and also have split leaves is the Monstera subpinnata and Monstera pinna partita. To me, they look very similar to the Rhaphidophora decursiva or a mature Epipremnum pinnatum. So make sure if you are buying a pinna partita or a subpinnata that you are getting those and not a Rhaphidophora decursiva or a mature Epipremnum pinnatum. And another Rhaphidophora plant that is often called a Monstera GINNY or a mini Monstera is the Rhaphidophora tetrasperma, which is not actually a Monstera, but as I mentioned, it is a Rhaphidophora, but it looks very similar to a Monstera deliciosa. And the second group of Monsteras are the one commonly referred to as the Swiss cheese plant, and the most popular of that is the Monstera adansonii. And the Monstera adansonii do come in many different forms. The most popular is the Monstera wide form, which is this one that I have, and the Monstera narrow form, which I have trailing down here. And like the Monstera deliciosa, the Monstera adansonii do have variegated forms that also come in albo, aurea, and mint, and I believe right now they actually are priced a bit higher than the variegated Monsteras, or probably around the same price. And there are many other Swiss cheese Monstera type plants that looks very much like the Monstera adansonii but are considered more rare and uncommon. And these are the Monstera esculeto, the Monstera acuminata, the Monstera acaconia guinness, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. Also the Monstera laniata, letreriana, again probably pronouncing it wrong. And the most coveted of them all, the Monstera obliqua. For me, I'm okay with just having the regular Monstera adansonii, the wide form and the narrow form, because to me, I can't really tell the differences between all of these Monsteras that look like a Swiss cheese plant. Monstera experts could probably tell you what are the minute differences among them. I can't, so I'm not going to even try. But if you are going to buy any of those more rare or more uncommon monsteras that looks like the Monstera adansonii, make sure that is what you're getting and not just a regular monstera, especially if you buy them as a juvenile plant or as a node, which I don't recommend at all. You might be paying for something that's not actually that rare Swiss cheese plant, but just a regular Monstera adansonii, so buyer beware. And another reason that I'm sticking to the regular Monstera adansonii, because among all my monstera plants, this is probably the one that I had the most issues on. And in an upcoming care and propagation video, I would talk about the different issues that I had with the Monstera adansonii and how I was able to troubleshoot them and finally grow them into this beautiful plant. The third and last group of monsteras that I'll be talking about are the monstera plants that are not fenestrated. At least as indoor plants, they rarely or don't easily fenestrate, but often these monsteras have very textured leaves and have a more unique variegation compared to the plants that I just mentioned. And the very first one is the Monstera SILTEPECANA. This one to me is kind of like the Monstera adansonii narrow form without the fenestration, but has a more textured leaf. And when the leaves are a bit more mature, it would have a silver or white sheen on top of it. And it also has another form, which is the Monstera SILTEPECANA El Salvador, which has a more prominent white or silver sheen on the leaves. And with this plant, it wasn't as easy care as I thought it would be when I first got it. I recently featured this in my struggling plants video, which I would also link down in the description if you haven't seen it yet. But I will also do a dedicated video on the Monstera SILTEPECANA, discussing its care, how I propagate it, and how I overcome the issues that I had with it. I wouldn't consider the Monstera SILTEPECANA to be rare. It can occasionally be found in big box stores, but if you find it in plant shops and nurseries, I'd say I wouldn't pay more than $30 for a 4-inch pot of a Monstera SILTEPECANA. And the next one is the Monstera Peru, which a couple of years ago used to also be considered rare or uncommon, but now that Costa Farms has also mass-produced it as part of their Live Trends collection and renamed it Green Galaxy plant, the Monstera Peru has become more accessible. But even before Costa Farms came out with the Green Galaxy plant, it also started to become more available in plant shops and nurseries. But kind of like the Monstera SILTEPECANA, I probably wouldn't pay more than $30 for a 4-inch plant of Monstera Peru. And the next one is the Monstera STANDLEYANA. It comes in 3 forms, a regular green one with no variegation, and 2 variegated forms, the Monstera albo, which I have over here, and also the Monstera STANDLEYANA aurea, which I have a propagation of over here. And these 2 plants I got from plant trades, but if you were to purchase them, they still can pack quite a price, as this is still not readily available in stores, but online they're pretty easy to find. So for the same size plants as the one that I have right now, you can expect to pay a little over or a little under $100 for each one of these. And I'll also be making dedicated videos for the Monstera STANDLEYANA, its care and propagation, as part of this series, so watch out for that one. If they are up, the links will be down in the description. And the last one that I'll mention is the Monstera dubia, which reminds me a lot of a shingling syndapsus or a shingling rhaphidophora. I think right now they have the same level of rarity and also price range, but of course, if you wanted a Monstera dubia, just make sure what you are getting is the Monstera dubia and not a syndapsus or rhaphidophora. So those are the popular Monstera varieties and what I currently have in my collection. And as I mentioned throughout the video, I'll be making specific care and propagation videos for the ones that I have in my collection for this month of September. And those videos will be uploaded every Thursday. So if you haven't yet, go ahead and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you won't miss on any of those videos. And if you're watching this from the future, go check the description. The links would be up there once those videos are up. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. And again, if you're new here, I hope you subscribe. I come up with houseplants and sustainable lifestyle videos every week. And if you haven't yet, go check out these videos up here until my next one. But until then, I see you. I appreciate you. Take care of yourself and each other and have a plentiful day. Bye.